Knud Jeppesen. The 15th of August 1892 in Copenhagen, the 14th of June 1974 in Risskov, was a Danish musicologist, composer, and writer on the history of music. Biography. Jeppesen demonstrated early musical talent at age 10 when he was first encouraged by Håkan Andersson and Paul Hellmuth, although he was largely self-taught, completing primary education in 1911. He first worked in Elbing and Liegnitz, Eastern Germany, as an opera coach and conductor. He found employment in Berlin in 1914, but returned to Denmark because of the outbreak of war. In Copenhagen, he became a pupil of prominent Danish composers Carl Nielsen and Thomas Laub, and studied musicology at Copenhagen University with Angel Hammerik. He passed the organist exam at the Royal Danish Conservatory of Music in 1916. Owing to Hammerik's retirement, there was nobody on the faculty of the university to examine Jeppesen's work. Therefore, he submitted his dissertation to the University of Vienna, where it was reviewed by Guido Adler, and Jeppesen was awarded a doctorate in 1922. He was organist at Copenhagen's St. Stephen's Church from 1917 to 1932 and at the Holmen Church from 1932 to 1947. He taught music theory at the Royal Danish Academy of Music from 1920 to 1947, also serving on its board of directors. In 1946, he was appointed to the new post of Professor of Musicology at Aarhus University, where he founded, in 1950, an Institute of Musicology which he directed until 1957. His students included the composers Vagn Holmboe in Copenhagen, and Bent Lorentzen in Aarhus. Following his retirement in 1957, Jeppesen resided in Italy, enabling him to make several discoveries in Italian libraries, culminating in his magnum opus, Le Frottole, 1968–70, a detailed study and bibliography of Frottole, the leading genre of Italian popular, secular songs in the late 15th and early 16th century. From 1927 until his death, he was active in the International Musicological Society, serving as president from 1949 to 1952. He was also a member, from 1963, of the Italian Accademia dei Lincei Musicology. Jeppesen's name is invariably associated with the study of musical counterpoint, particularly in the style of Palestrina, of whom he was the leading scholar of his day. His 1930 work Counterpoint, the polyphonic vocal style of the 16th century, has been a standard textbook since its appearance in German, 1935, and English, 1939, and remains in print today. The third and final edition remains untranslated. His doctoral thesis was expanded in 1923 and appeared in English in 1927 as The Style of Palestrina and the Dissonance, a work which the New Grove cites as being the most distinguished and influential example of stylistic analysis at this time. His published writings mostly regard music by Italian and Danish composers from the 16th and 17th centuries. Jeppesen engaged in much primary research, locating early manuscript and print copies of old scores and preparing editions with annotations and commentary. In 1962 he finished the first complete thematic catalogue of Palestrina's oeuvre. Among his accomplishments were the discovery of 10 previously unknown masses by Palestrina in 1949. Music. Jeppesen's early efforts at composition were poorly received and he turned away from composition in 1919, only to resume after a 15-year hiatus. He is known for well-crafted songs set to Danish texts, church music, and motets. He also wrote cantatas, organ music, and an opera, Risskov, which was performed by the Royal Danish Theatre on September 20, 1950. He also made many contributions to Danish hymnology, and his Beigenflagte Verundelights Rsodta Smil is a classic with Danish church choirs. His style incorporates his knowledge of early counterpoint but also the style of late Viennese romantics, including Gustav Mahler, to whom he was introduced by Adler. From 1916 to 1931, Jeppesen was Nielsen's closest associate, and Jeppesen wrote several important articles about that composer. Writings: Die Dissonanzbehandlung bei Palestrina. Dis. U. of Vienna, 1922. Enlarged Copenhagen, 1923. As Palestrinastal med Særlig par Dissonanzbehandlingen. Trans. 1925. Eng. Trans. As the style of Palestrina and the dissonance. 1927. 1946. Revised. Das Sprunggesetz des Palestrinastals bei Bettentin Viertel Norton. Halben Taktzeiten. Single quote. Musikwissenschaftlicher Kongress. Basel 1924. pp. 211-19. Johann Joseph Fuchs und die moderne Kontrapunkttheorie. Deutsche Musikgesellschaft. Kongress I. Leipzig 1925. pp. 187-8. Das isometrische Moment in der Vokalpolyphonie. Festschrift Peter Wagner. ed. K. Weinmann. Leipzig. 1926. pp. 87-100. Über einen Brief Palestrinas. Festschrift Peter Wagner. ed. K. Weinmann. Leipzig. 1926. pp. 107. Die Textlegung in der Chansonmusik des späteren 15. Jahrhunderts. Beethoven's Entenerfeier. Vienna 1927. pp. 155-7. Die Neuentdeckten Bücher der Lorden des Ottaviano dei Petrucci und andere Musiklicher. Seltenheiten der Bibliotheca Columbina zu Sevilla. Zeitschrift für Musikwissenschaft. XII. 1929-30. pp. 73-89. Kontrapunkt. Vokalpolyphony. Counterpoint. Copenhagen. 1930. 3rd ed. 1962. Trans. 1935. 5 1970ths. Eng. Trans. 1939. 2 Candelas edition. 1 Entstand die Marcellus Messer. Single quote. Studien zur Musikgeschichte. Festschrift für Guido Adler. Vienna. 1930. pp. 126-36. Die Furious der Fabbrico del Duomo. Milano. Acta Musicologia. E. 1931. 14-28. Ein Venezianisches Ladenmanuskript. Theodor Kreuer. Festschrift. ed. H. Zenk. H. Schultz and W. Gerstenberg. Regensburg. 1933. pp. 69-76. Diedrich Buxtehude. Dioteric Buxtehude. Dansk Musiktidsskrift. XII. 1937. pp. 63-70. Romog den danske Musik. Romog Danmark gennem Tiderne. E. ed. L. Bobbay. Copenhagen. 1937. pp. 153-76. Über einige unbekannte Frottelenhandschriften. Acta Musicologia. She. 1939. pp. 81-114. Venetian Folk Songs of the Renaissance. Papers of the American Musicological Society. 1939. pp. 62-75. Eine musiktheoretische Korrespondenz des früheren Cinquecento. Acta Musicologia. XIII. 1941. pp. 3-39. Das Volkslied geht in den Frottelenbuchen des Octavio Petrucci, 1504–1514. Single quote. Lekaniv Kodali Zoltan Hap Vanadik Slete Snapgera. Ed. B. Gunda. Budapest. 1943. pp. 265–74. Marcellus Problemi. Acta Musicologia. XVII. 1944–5. pp. 11–38. Corylus Constantinus som liturgisk dokument. Festskrift till O. M. Sandvik. ed. O. Gurden. Oslo. 1945. pp. 52–82. Anodefund par Conservatoriet. Dansk Musiktidsskrift. XX. 1945. pp. 41–7. pp. 67–70. Carl Nielsen. A Danish Composer. Music Review. 7. 1946. pp. 170–77. Zur Kritik der klassischen Harmonie Lehre. International Musicological Society Congress Report IV. Ball 1949. pp. 23–34. The recently discovered Mantova masses of Palestrina. A provisional communication. Acta Musicologia. XXII. 1950. pp. 36–47. Pierluigi da Palestrina. Herzog Guillermo Gonzaga und die Neugefunden Mantovana Messen Palestrinas. Eine ergänzende Bericht. Acta Musicologia. XXV. 1953. pp. 132–79. Cavazzoni Cabazon. Journal of the American Musicological Society. VIII. 1955. pp. 81–5. Eine frühe Orgemser aus Castellarquato. Archiv für Musikwissenschaft. XII. 1955. pp. 187–205. Palestrinian. Ein unbekanntes Autogramm und eine unveröffentlichte Falsabordoni des Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. Miscellanea und Homenaja a Monsignor Higinio Angles. Barcelona. 1958–61. pp. 417–30. A par notations Niska Problemeri det 16. Hundredies Musik Ognogel Detilnitid Iagtgelsa. Takt and Linkpartich. Single quote. Svensktidsskrift for Musikforskning. XLIII. 1961. pp. 171–93. Ein altvenetisches Tanzbuch. Festschrift Carl Gustav Feller zum 60. Geburtstag. ed. H. Huschen. Regensburg. 1962. pp. 245–63. Über Italienische Kirchenmusik in der ersten Hälfte des 16. Jahrhunderts. Studia Musicologica Academiae Scientiarum Hungari c. E. 1962. pp. 149–60. Carl Nielsen Paar 100 Dagen. Nogelerindringer. Danskarbog for Musikforskning. IV. 1964–5. pp. 137–50. The manuscript Florence Biblioteca Nazionale Centrale. Banco Rari 230. An attempt at diplomatic reconstruction. Aspects of medieval and Renaissance music. A birthday offering to Gustav Ries. ed. J. Larue and others. New York. 1966 revised. pp. 440–47. Monteverdi. Kapellmeister and S. Barbara. Single quote. Claudio Monteverdi Il suo tempo. Venice. Mantua and Cremona 1968. pp. 313–22. Le Frottola. Aarhus and Copenhagen. 1968–70. An unknown pre-Madrigalene music print in relation to other contemporary Italian sources. 1520–1530. Single quote. Studies in Musicology. Essays, in Memory of Glenn Hayden. Ed. J. W. Pruitt. Chapel Hill. N.C. 1969. pp. 3-17. Aucune brevi annotazioni sulla musicologia. Scritti in honor di Luigi Ronga. Milan and Naples. 1973. pp. 275-8. Compositions. 1906 Nordisk Festmesh for 3 violins, cello, harmonium and piano. 1911 Stacker. Symphonic poem. Tenor and piano. 1912 Thora for soloists and orchestra. Text. Johannes Jørgensen. 1915 Strygevartet if. Elevopgave. 1919 Violin Sonate. 1925 Cantate for Rungsted Kostskoles Samfund. 1930 Sonatine i C-dur. Piano. 1934 Gud. Vendora until Min Bon. Motet 4-part mixed choir. 1935 Hvadr Meniski. Motet for 4-part mixed choir. 1936 Reformations Cantate. 1937 Domini. Refugium Factus est Nobis, cantata for soprano and flute or violin solo. 1938 Cy Ellens Fa. Symphony. 1940 to Pathetisk Sang. 1941 Horn Concert. 1941 Lille Summer Trio. For flute, cello, and piano. 1942 Preludium og Fuga I moll. Organ. 1942 45th Stadium Danicum. For the opening of the Danish Radio Concert Hall. 1944 Lille Trio. La Primavera. 1944 Halskyen. 8-part male chorus. Text. Knud Jeppesen. 1945 Dronning Dagmar Messe. 1946 Cantate Vadindvulsen af Aarhus Universitets Hovedbygning. 1949 Ornen og Skarnbassen. For the Copenhagen Strengakers 25-year Jubilee. 1950 Ressora. Opera in 3 acts after texts by the composer and Carlo Goldoni. 1951 Cantate Vadindvulsen af Haderslev Domkirke. 1951 Du gav mig her en lod af din jord. C. R. Sundal. 1951 Dagen Vidrog Arbord. Cantata for alto soloist. Mixed chorus. String orchestra or organ. Text. Dorothea Engelbrettsdatter. 1952 Cantate Vadejiski Music in Conservatorium's 25 ARS Jubileum. 1953 Vintergakker Brut af Molden. Hymn. 1957 50 Chorale Forspel. Organ. Discography. 1996 Music Vade Susan Storstrom's Camera Ensemble. Lille Summer Trio. Helican HCD 1023. 2003 Monteverdi, Knud Jeppesen Music Studerondes Kammerkor. DIR. Finn Mathiasen. Point PCD 5161 halves. Editions. With V. Brondel. Der Copenhagener Chansonnier. Copenhagen. 1927. 2 Candelas edition 1965. Becker af Magens Petsen. Danish Onens. I. Copenhagen. 1933. With V. Brondel. Die Merstimige Italianiski Laude 1500. Leipzig and Copenhagen. 1935. Revised. Die Italianiski Orga Music am Anfang des Cinquecento. Copenhagen. 1943. Enlarged 2 Candelas edition 1960. Dietrich Buxtehude. Minguder Medmig. Der Herr ist mit mir. Samfundet til Ugevelse Dansk Musik. 3rd Sir. LXXXIX. Copenhagen. 1946. La Flora. Ari and C. Antiche Italian. Copenhagen. 1949. Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. La Messa di Mantova. La Opera Complete. XVIIIXIX. Rome. 1954. Balli Antichi Veneziani per Cembalo. Copenhagen. 1962. Italia Sacra Musica. Musiche chorali italiane sconosciute della prima metà del Cinquecento. Copenhagen. 1962. Founding editor of Danish Onens. Issuing editions of early Danish music. References. Further reading. Glan, Henrik. Knud Jeppesen. 15. August 1892 bis 14. Juni 1974. Acta Musicologica. Volume 47. FASC. 1. January to June 1975. pp. 1-2. Professor. Knud Jeppesen. Premio Galilei. Italian. Knud Jeppesen. 1892–1974. Quote. Det Kongelige Bibliotek. Danish. Catalog. Det Kongelige Bibliotek. Danish.